Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 5 Tips and Tricks for Careers in Athletics. I am your host, Dr. Maury Mosovitz, with, as always, my favorite co-host, Jen Albanese.
Hey, my favorite co-host, Maury. What's up?
Hey, not much.
How
Just
are
got
you?
back. Oh, great. Just had one of those children's recitals today, and
wow. Please tell me everything.
So I will give you a snippet that we recorded it, and my daughter played, your niece, the
Yes.
xylophone, and we sent it to my parents, and now they have decided that she is now the yo-yo ma of xylophone, and that we should buy a xylophone, and that she should go and become this professional xylophonist. So it's been an experience, and my wife has just kind of laughed at this. And
Wait, so did she have like a solo? Was she?
No, there was 20 kids, and she just banged on the things, and they actually took out some of the panels so you could only bang the right ones. And listen, she did a great job. I'm not saying she didn't. I love my daughter to death, but I don't know if I would make it into a career after one first grade recital.
Let's be real. I was going to say she's first grade. It's not like this is like,
But when they look back and they say, "Oh, the world's best xylophonist," we'll make sure that we pull this clip back out.
All the way, baby. Lucy Masovitz. I love my niece. Let's go, girl. I love it. I love it. Well, that's fun. That's really fun. And we have such a good guest today. I'm so excited to talk to Kelly. She's going to be incredible.
And a coach.
I know, which is cool. Our first coach. This is going to be
really great.
Yeah.
So, and I've been connecting recently. I think I was telling you about one of my former high school coaches that I worked with.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I spent like an hour. Jack McMullen. There was 3 high school coaches that I think made a huge difference in my life. And one was Neil Keenan, Mitch Whiteley, who was the lacrosse coach, and then Jack McMullen, who was the basketball coach. And Neil I talked to all the time and got me into managing. But I talked to Jack for an hour, and just having that conversation made me realize it's probably one of the reasons I was in athletics. All 3 of those guys are probably a reason, but just like every time I talk to a coach, I feel like that his, just the way that he is and how he had respect for people and how he approached it is like the moniker that I hold a lot of professionals up with in athletics. And probably one of the reasons why I decided like, hey, I want to do this, and not even realizing it until recently and having those conversations with him. So
that's so cool. I mean, coaches have such impact. I mean, it even doesn't have to be a coach, just a supervisor or a mentor that you've met along the way. And it doesn't stop once you get like a job, or it doesn't stop when you become a leader of a department or whatever. You're always, I feel like, looking to those mentors and people that
Did you have any that you developed out of like?
Yeah. I mean, I think when you try to figure out what you want to do in your life, that's always really hard. Like, I did some internships, and I had some really great bosses at internships that really took the time to like sit with me and talk to me about a career. And I knew I always wanted a career that wasn't your typical 9 to 5, where you just punch a clock and you sit in front of a computer and that's it. Now, granted, we do that a good portion of our day.
Sometimes,
but we're also up and moving and doing a lot of things. So I think, in those internships, I had some really impactful people. And I think, as I grew in athletics, I had mentors along the way. Like I think about like Dave Maloney, who used to work with us. He was the first person to give me an opportunity. And I always go back to him, and I still have a relationship with him. And, now he's kind of like athletics adjacent. He's a professor now. And, he's doing great things, but I always think back to him and how he gave me that first opportunity and helped me along. And, I think about Anthony DeFino, who we've gotten the opportunity to talk to on the podcast. And, we went from a relationship that was, we started off kind of butting heads a little bit, and it turned into a really great learning experience where I value him now and I trust him and I go to him for so much. And he's such a mentor to me and a great friend. So it's crazy how people influence your life in different ways at different times. You don't know. And then
they get to come back into your life. Like, I feel like that's what I'm going to make an effort to make sure that I stay more in contact with some of the people. It's just appreciating them through their role and how I got to where I am personally, but professionally too. So it's
because they helped form who we are as people and how we got to where we are and the positions that we're in and the leaders that we are. So it's really cool to look back and see those people that influenced us and
fun reminiscing. We'll have today we're going to reminisce with a guest that we've had experience with as an assistant coach and now doing awesome stuff as a head coach. So
excited for Kelly. So happy for her.
We'll be back after this break. If you're enjoying this podcast, please follow us on your favorite podcast streaming service. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast is a part of Athletic Career Consulting, a group focused on educating and guiding high school and college students looking towards careers in athletics. To find out more, go to our website at www.athcareer.com. That's ATHCAREER.
All right, everybody, welcome back. So excited for this guest today. Maury, would you like to introduce her?
I'm really excited. So an all-around professional in soccer, spanning an amazing career as an athlete and coach. A native of Great Britain, she traveled to the United States to both play for and get her bachelor's degree from the Indiana University. She would later get her master's from Concordia University, Irvine in coaching and athletic administration. As an athlete, she played for Arsenal Football Club, the English national team, Team Great Britain, University of Indiana, the Boston Breakers, and Orange County Wave, winning 2 WPSL national championships with 2 different teams. As a coach, she served as assistant coach for Monmouth, Syracuse, Penn State, and associate head coach at Boston University. In 2022, she was named head women's soccer coach at the University of Delaware. Very excited and really lucky to welcome our friend Kelly Lawrence to the podcast. Welcome, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
Thank you so much for having me. So good to see you guys again.
I know, this is awesome.
We miss you. We miss you.
I know. You're doing amazing things. We're just so excited to have you be a part of this, but also just to see all your success.
Well, I can't get away from the cues. I'm marrying someone whose whole family is from Syracuse. So I've been up a few times in the last few years. So always feels like home.
And we get to see you when you travel back. And so it's just so great.
We're so happy for you too. Head coach, that's so amazing. Like, congratulations. Like, you deserve that. That's so amazing. So happy for you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off. And as we talk about every week, we're going to do what's your first tip for those people out there that are interested in careers in athletics?
Yeah, so I think this is the first tip is really invest in people that you work with. And it sounds really, really simple, but I think it's a tip that can span from the first time you start in athletics till, I'm finding it now 13, 14 years into college athletics. And what I mean by investing in others is really to help you. It's a little bit on the selfish end that I think sometimes that you find, I'm not growing, or something's frustrating, or you're struggling in a skill. It's about investing in other people so that you can help them help you. So if you're finding a lot of times that the communication strategy within the team, maybe that you're working in, the staff and things like that, isn't quite going, of actually getting to know those people, investing in those people and helping them to help you. I'm finding it a lot as a head coach that I'm working with a brand new staff, and there are lots of tripwires all over. A lot of things are going well, but there's tripwires all over. And I view it as I'm going to invest in them to help them become the best version of themselves, which will then in turn help me, versus looking at it as I'm the head coach and they need to be helping me. So that would be my first tip.
I mean, the one thing that I always think about is I feel like people jump into their careers and they think that they're kind of alone in everything, that like it's on their shoulders.
Yeah.
And like, from you being a person that grew up in a team sport their entire life, and then you go into this world of, okay, how am I going to navigate it? It really is. And I think throughout it's very few jobs, I feel like, in the athletics world that it's just solely one person, that it's mostly like you have to be a part of that team. And either if you're the head person developing that team, or if you're a part of it, like creating that same mentality that you're having with your players as a group of the people that are working.
It's so funny as you say that. I think it mirrors, you're working for teams. You're also on a team with your staff and like with the people around you within the athletic department. So if you don't build each other up and help support each other, no one can be successful. So it's it's so cool to hear that perspective of like, you know, as a head coach, like thinking like, oh, everyone's got to help me, but like you're helping them too. But in turn, that's also helping you. So that's a really cool way to put it, I think.
I guess
Yeah, I think, yeah,
no,
go.
go ahead. You go ahead.
Well, I think the other part of it is a lot of people are throwing the word accountability around, and I still do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like the way that we talk about it with our team is, you know, yes, we can say, I want to hold someone accountable. How about investing in them to then be able to then, you know, have that next level of accountability and help them so that, you know, when you're on team, and then that in turn will help you. So
Yeah, like everybody's a part of it. What I was going to ask is from that perspective of now being like a head coach and having that ability to pick the people that are around you and decide
yeah.
who's a part of that team. How did that change for you? Like, how did that look different? And with this mentality of like knowing how important that cultivation is.
Yeah, I mean, just in the way that I am and who I am, and we've done a ton of assessments as a staff, leadership assessments and things like that. So I've got to know myself a lot as well. It came from even actually a drive with one of my assistants where I said, "Hey, we're going to audit the season. You know, I'm going to have a lot of lists of things. Like it's okay. Like you know, we had a good season, but like we need to figure out what we need to get better at." And my assistant took a big deep breath. She said, "Oh my God, you're going to have lists." And I was like, "Don't worry. I am invested in you being successful. Like I'm invested." And then she took took a breath out. But
she's like, okay.
yeah. And I think it was a little bit of me understanding, like, I'm a first time head coach. Like I need these people, and they need me, and the best way for me to figure out how to help them is to invest in them and get to know them and understand them better. And I've certainly put my hand up a lot of times and said, like, I don't know the answer, and I don't know, sometimes I don't even know how they can help me, and that's probably one of the most uncomfortable feelings at times.
Yeah.
But just choosing to invest in, and we have a very collaborative environment, and that's the way I enjoy it. So it's a little bit of who I am as well, but I felt the ease of my staff of like, we have to be invested in each other. We have to help each other grow.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome.
And I mean,
right.
that goes across everything. I was going to say too, like that's not just in the coaching side. I think about it all the time when I'm dealing with, and sometimes like our staffs can be young, like they can be like people that are just finding themselves, and you have, and I think you probably get some of, you know, of your coaches, you're going to have someone that's just kind of probably on the younger side too, is how do you help build that person up so they can be strong within your organization? But that's also developing them as a professional.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. Great tip.
Love it. All right. Tip number two. Tip number two.
Yeah. Second tip kind of goes into this. So the better you know yourself, the better you will be at your job. You know, we as a staff do a lot of leadership assessments. I'm really fortunate to have someone on my staff that has a background in leadership and in sports psychology. So we actually started this spring monthly leadership meetings, an hour and a half to 2 hours as a staff, to get to know ourselves. You know, it's all the different types of personality, the true colors, all the different types of assessments that you can do, and then being really vulnerable. And it's taken a year to build up a space where we can be. There's been a lot of laughter. There's a lot of tears at times of just sharing, you know, different stories of things that have happened, and hey, did that shape you or did it not? And is it just something that, you know, you're just going to say, hey, I'm not going to be that way. So I think that's something that I think is just really important. And probably before I got this job, I thought I pretty much knew, and then I became more of a leader and I realized a lot more about myself. And sometimes the awareness is like, can we switch it off sometimes, because it can be hard. You know,
right.
You're trying to work off your instincts and trying to make decisions, and that you're really aware of the things that both that you're strong at, and also the things that you need to continue to grow in. But it's helped me, because it's a lot about what I've learned about leadership. It's a lot of managing self, because you are influencing. Everything is trickling down. You're in your brain in every room, with every interaction that you have with somebody is about you and what you're bringing. So that's critical, I think, to and being a leader. When you're in athletics, you are a leader, no matter where you sit. So because the better you know yourself, the better you can help influence and manage people and just, help your team.
I mean, personally, I feel like what you're saying, I don't always feel like is the norm for a lot of people and even coaches. Like, I think a lot of times people are afraid to do what you're talking about. And I think it's so admirable that you're taking that step, because you're recognizing that the more you can improve yourself and figure out how to look at your ways of dealing with things and question things and adjust it will make your group and organization better. I think that's not something that everyone feels super comfortable with. And
no, that's for sure. Yeah.
I think it's not comfortable.
It's not. I was gonna say,
no.
You got to find ways to be, comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that's the only way you can get better. And that's hard. Like even like personally, like I would struggle with that. You know what I mean? I think it's hard, but it's something that only makes you better. And when you look at like the end goal of it, like it's only going to make everybody in the room better. You got to almost put yourself through it. And that's hard sometimes to like even even to put yourself in that situation in the beginning. It's hard, but it's good.
And just as a leader, like making the space for it, that's the other thing too. I think that a lot of times, that's not always something that people would prioritize, and probably not in a good way. And the fact that you're doing that, I think is so like awesome for yourself and for your program, because you're putting that in the forefront to say, hey, if we check ourselves and see where things will work better, that's only going to make our operation better. And I feel like everybody's just like, okay, we just got to get through the day. We're going to do this, but that doesn't always mean that they're advancing themselves or their organization.
Yeah, I think part of it is like, if I'm going to have these core values and if I'm going to speak to all these people that touch my program that are either athletes or are recruits, like I have to hold myself to those things. And so I think it kind of got born out of that, of just wanting to be who I'm saying I am going to be, and also having a completely new staff. So all three of us didn't really know each other. And then I added another assistant who is a younger assistant. So now there's four of us. And we've all kind of jumped in, and me understanding that as a leader, like when we do a leadership assessment, like I may have to go first sometimes and be vulnerable so that the room will be vulnerable. And the cool thing is what we've done is we have these meetings and leadership assessments, and we do get down to some nitty gritty, and then we actually do them with our team. And then we can talk to our team about some of the experiences we've had as staff, or just reflect and let them know we're doing the work too. It's uncomfortable. But I think it's also kind of leaning on to the fact that like I'm new at this. I am a first time head coach, and I know I've got a long way to go, and just trying to lean into that and just trying to get better every day. I just want to be the best version of myself every day. So that's those are the two seeds. So I have a great staff who are so supportive. And so, like I've got one other assistant who's the same as me. We're like bleeding hearts. And then I've got someone who's a little bit more on the like analytical side. I've got someone who's very steady. And so we're all different. And then now what we're seeing is like, it's a family dynamic now. We've been together for 15 months. And so someone will come in and have a response to something, and you're like, okay, I know they're a good person, but something's off. And so now we have all this information about each other. It's not we're putting anybody in a box, but we're like, okay, why is that happening? Or why has that task not been completed? Okay, this is someone who's very detail oriented. She's probably pored over that email for 2 hours versus, hey, she's just not getting her stuff done. So it's helped a lot.
Awesome. Great tip. And something that's unique that I think is something that probably so many more people should incorporate in how they're doing things.
Yep.
So tip number 3 is kind of maybe helping with people like making career moves and changes and things like that. But the ones that love you will have the most fear for you. So just a quick story, associate head coach at Boston University, 3 years in, getting head coach calls for all kinds of jobs. And then I decide that I want to go and take a volunteer assistant position at Penn State, one of the best programs in the country, but $0 coming in. And yes, I was fortunate enough that my fiance worked at Penn State, so it made it easy from like a rent perspective. But I did Uber Eats driving. I was doing Uber Eats in the summer to try to help, with the bills. So it was a feeling for me of like trust and my gut instinct that like this was the right move, that I had gotten a certain way in, got to a certain point in my career, had looked at my resume, but actually looked at the actual quality of my resume and took a look at it and said, hey, I think there's some areas that I could really improve on, and why not go work for arguably one of the best coaching staffs in the country. And when I told my family that, it was a little bit of a shock to the system. Certainly they were excited I was going to be with my fiance, but it was kind of like, why would you then, do this, drop down? And even my brother told me like a year later when I got the head job at Delaware, like I was completely against it, and he's like so supportive, but like he was, and so had people in my circle, different people from all different industries, whether it's athletics or outside of it, who gave me their perspective, who similarly didn't just climb the ladder, because that's what you need to do. And someone I spoke to, who actually said, hey, basketball coaches move every 2 years. They're moving to just get different experiences and expand that network and things like that. And I just bet on myself. I'm not actually the most confident person, but I bet on myself that the previous, 11 years was not, going to be written off by this one move. I got so lucky, and honestly was not ready to leave Penn State. Loved my experience and was trying to rationalize to my fiance about doing this for zero money for another year, and just ended up just landing, ended up getting a fantastic opportunity that I just couldn't turn down. So, so just having a circle outside of your family, and I trust my parents so much. They've been very successful in their own business rights, but they didn't understand the dynamics of athletics. And so, certainly listened to their opinions, but, had some people outside that just helped with that process of making me feel like, hey, go do this, do it with conviction. And if it doesn't work, then, your, last 11 years weren't nothing.
Right.
So.
Right.
And I mean, you invested in yourself, which is like one of those things that you can never really, like, if you have the space to do it and you have the forefront, I mean, like, all the kudos to you that it was worth it, that at the end, and now you look at that, it's all worked out, that you're in this amazing opportunity, that your family's all going to be in a good place, and that really things come together when you like put things in a good perspective. And it's not like you just jumped into it without forefront. Like, you knew that this was something that leads you to the next thing. So, I mean, a lot of people might not have taken that jump that you did, but doing it in a thoughtful way clearly made all the difference.
And you listened to that was the right thing to do for you. That was going to get you better. You said you looked at your resume and you said, these are the ways I need to improve. And hey, doing this was going to do that and improve it for you to, like they always say, like everything happens for a reason. It worked out so that, now it's almost a perfect situation for you. So, that just makes it all worth it. Even the scary parts of making those decisions. So sometimes it's uncomfortable but it works out in the end. So. Yeah.
And then the joke really was that I moved in, and then my fiance went to Beijing for the Olympics. So she moved out. So that was like, we were apart for 3 years, and then I moved in, and then she left me for China. So
that's awesome.
So that made it a little bit more scary, but, so the fourth one is kind of a recent one, and it's just as simple as just assume positive intent. I think a lot of situations can, seem like a certain way. Someone, doesn't respond to an email, makes a decision on something. You have a poor interaction with someone, or, it just is, I don't necessarily even have like a specific scenario. It's just taking that breath and assuming positive intent. And because I think most people are just doing something, either something is happening and it has, they haven't even thought about something. And so, but it's impacting you, and it's impacting, whether it's your job or life or really anything. So I'm just trying to embrace this idea of like positive intent. I don't like a response from an email from somebody or someone doesn't get back to me or something like that. It's assume that things are going on. like I think the scenario I gave you earlier, like someone's poring over an email versus responding to you, you could be so frustrated because you're not seeing me as important, and yet they are trying to put everything they possibly can into your response. So that's just kind of a little bit of a life lesson too. But
I feel like that's something that I always have to remind myself of. Like even today, I got a call and I was like, where is this coming from? What is this person trying to do? And it's like, you have so many and different scenarios, coaches have different things coming at them, but I feel like in the world, I feel like I'm getting it from all sides. The one challenge I feel like is, okay, 22 different sports, and there's 22 different things coming in my ear. And then sometimes I feel like I need to do what you're saying and be like, okay,
yeah,
take a breath. What is the intent of what this person is trying to do, and not how am I taking it at that moment?
Or how's like another situation that you just came out of that was
right,
bad or like upset you? How are you letting that affect the next situation you're dealing with? Because the person you're going to talk to doesn't know what just happened 10 minutes to you,
yeah,
10 minutes ago. So you can't let the two things affect it. And that's hard. That's a hard thing to try to separate. Literally, like the other day, I was walking from one meeting to the other, and I was like, all right, just take a breath. Like, take a breath, let that first meeting go and move on to the next one, and let that one go, because I can't let this one affect, what I have to do for the rest of my day. So that's so good. And sometimes it's hard, but
you can't, if you don't have that mind frame, like you're talking about, that you have to consciously have that thought in your head, because
it's the self-talk. You have to self-talk it.
Or your inner voice is just going to assume probably more than what it is.
Yeah. I think in my earlier in my career, I used the word curious. Like it actually was one of my core values at one point, of just being curious about, so why is that happening? And that was that's how I coached. Like when I would see it, I would expect versus accept. I would expect that this behavior was going to happen, but I wasn't necessarily going to accept it. And I kind of used the curiosity side of it, like of just trying to create a little bit more understanding. And then you are right. The pace of athletics forces everyone to be almost on edge. And I am one of those people that's like really patient until a point, and then I'm just like, I don't understand. Like I've given you like weeks to be ready, and then you're not ready, and like, okay, so why are you not ready? And and so it's still something that I'm working on, but it is like, and I think it again goes back to like what's helped me in the last few months is understanding my staff better as people has then allowed me to then, it's almost like the cogs are turning of like, okay, so why is that happening? Why is that going on? And maybe I'm saying it like everything is bad. No, I have a great staff and everything is great, but it's just like those little moments where things aren't quite going how they should, and they're running the way that they should run, or an interaction isn't quite right. Is trying to just do that little moment of like, okay, I'm going to assume positive intent in this moment. And then the worst happens is that you've realized that it's not, and then you're in the same place you were, and then you're just going to open dialogue at that point. So
I wouldn't even look at it like it sounds like everything to me. It sounds like someone that's just engaging and like being curious of it, which I think is totally. It's the funny thing about you, and I always appreciate, is you look at it from a positive angle about self growth and group growth, comparatively to kind of tearing yourself down or tearing down the group. And I think that's a dynamic that changes the way things are. So I mean, so often, like, these are things I feel like I need to tell myself all the time when I'm sitting in my office and being like, okay, how do I need to frame this to look at it? And one of the reasons I just so appreciate who you are and the time that we spent, because I always felt that you took it from a view that was like positive and growth oriented.
It was always a good conversation with you. Like, even if you were questioning something, like you never talked down to us. You never made us feel like you should be doing this for us or whatever. Like it was always such a good conversation where we both understood each other at the end, regardless of what the decision was made. I always appreciated that too. Like I loved working with you. I miss you.
Appreciate that. I mean, it just, it's just trying to just have understanding of, why something is happening. And often it's like the person doesn't have the lens that you have, your lens is your lens. And it's like, how do I give them all of the information so we can then try to figure out like how we get a situation from from a no to a maybe to a yes, or maybe it isn't in this moment. But yeah, I'm working on that. And you're funny because I am literally the worst. Like, I'm the worst critic, and so I'm trying really hard
Well,
to
everybody's their own
not.
worst. Everyone's their own worst
Yeah,
critic, but you
yeah.
gotta.
I'm trying really hard. It's been hard. I will be honest, and that was kind of my fifth point was going to be about like how hard athletics is, but that you're just learning so much about yourself, and that's also hard. You're trying to lead others while you're not really feeling like it's at times that you are the best person to be leading. So it's I do try to lead with the growth mindset, but sometimes it makes it harder, I think.
Yeah.
It'd be nice
You
to
just
be
have to
ignorance is bliss.
you just have to give yourself grace sometimes though.
Yeah,
It's not
that's right.
I think everybody puts a lot of pressure on themselves as a leader,
Yeah,
but you got to be able to give yourself a little bit of grace
yeah,
because everybody's
yeah,
learning, even the
yeah,
even the athletic directors and chancellors and
yeah,
presidents, they're all still learning too. So,
yeah. Agreed.
all right, well, here's the big question. So, what do you know now that you wish you knew then? So, what do you know now that you wish you knew at the beginning of your career when you first started?
Yeah, I could go a couple different ways with this one. I have two kind of in my mind. I think probably the most helpful one, I think that would be which I learned from my stop at Boston University, where I worked with a legend, Nancy Feldman, and I would come back. She'd send me off on a task, and I'd come back. I'm like, oh, they said no, and then she'd be like, okay, did you ask this? Did you ask this? Did you ask this? Did you ask this? And in the moment, you're like, well, you're thinking, well, if I could, like, if we could, it would have been, it would have just happened. And it was just kind of um, a realization that you have to advocate. Like, if this is important, no matter what role you're in, if this is important, you have to advocate and you have to ask more questions. And it is that idea of like, how can you get from a no to a maybe to a yes? And that, yeah, you might even come off of like demanding or, and obviously you try to do it in a right way, but that you have to advocate for your own ideas. You have to advocate if you happen to be a part of a program or you're running a program, like you are advocating for the experience of these student athletes. I mean, that is what it's all about. We are in servant leadership, and it kind of segues into the idea of like, there are times when you are last on the list. You are absolutely last on the list. I feel that a lot. You're last on the list, and it is about serving these individuals. And if we are going to create this environment that is about them, it's, that's in your mind all the time of like, how can I make this the best possible experience for them? So I think from a skill perspective, I would just say, have as many, you're offered, you're given a task. It's like, what are all the things I need to know? And certainly you might not know off the bat all the right questions to ask, but taking that responsibility really seriously and thinking about it as if this was yours, and then going and advocating and trying to figure out, how we get to where we want to get to. And sometimes it is a no, and then it's just some dialogue that you've opened up. But I think that was probably I would say, something I learned, probably 10 years in. Whereas probably I was looking at moments, even when I was at Syracuse, if like something wasn't possible, I was like, oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, we couldn't do it. And it like, okay, then we didn't explore anything beyond there. And I've certainly had some situations where someone's like, that's interesting. Like we've had a situation here at Delaware where I actually questioned something about grant, and the grant and aid letters. And now we potentially are going to do them a little bit differently. But, I thought I was asking a silly question, and it's now actually, now that might actually impact everybody's and in a positive way. So that would be my fifth one.
I think for me, like as the person that gets some of those requests, sometimes the people that can come in prepared and like explain it make a big difference. Because if sometimes I don't understand, and like someone comes back and been like, and they come back and be like, well, I really meant this. And I was like, oh, well, that's completely different than what I assumed you were talking about. Like, you wanted to have fire at the facility, and you go to like some weird
That's
place
me
where you're
asking
like
that question.
and if you come in and you like put all those steps down and you prepare it, like as the person that's receiving those questions, that makes a big difference. Like it really changes if someone comes in prepared and explained, like that could change completely how you approach it. Not to say that, honestly, my first thing is not thinking, okay, how do I say no to this? Like, I'm always trying to figure out, okay, how can we find a piece of this that'll work at a minimum? But sometimes people don't come in a position
with
that
enough
actually enough to explain it, or even to dialogue with a way that could actually get it there, or not be open to have like an exchange of like, okay, this is what's going on, or, saying, well, we can't park a car in the middle of the field, and they go, oh, well, we just want a car in the general area. Well, that's a different thing. Like, that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
How do we get to that area that we can all work together on?
Yeah, it's that approach. It's the way you approach it with the person and the relationship that you have with that person, and how you want to be able to work with them instead of demanding something. When people demand, it's like, oh, you're definitely not going to go down the right road there. But if you're, like you said, you're prepared and you can approach it in the right situation, it's going to have a better outcome, regardless if it's a yes, maybe, or a no, So well, that's so good. Kelly, these were so good.
This was so great. It was so good to see you.
Yeah, it was great. Great conversations. And it's like, even for now, like, the cogs are turning with our conversation, which is just is so awesome. And so good to see you guys.
I know. Well, we wish you the best, Kelly. I'm so excited. We can't wait for you to come up and see us in Syracuse.
Well, you guys got to come down with the hockey
everything team. And stay in touch. I know, right?
Yeah, we're gonna see you with hockey, and I now have I'm tracking Delaware soccer every once in a while when I'm going through the list.
Every time I see you on social, I make sure, like, I look at your social, see if you won that night. I'm like, let's go, Kelly, let's go.
Yeah, I will say I was pretty happy to get my first head coach win against the Qs. I'm not gonna lie, that was
deep down.
I got a lot of really, really awesome text messages from people up at Syracuse after that. So that was really awesome. So I spent 4.5 years there and really saw it as a job. Like, when I got there, like when I came up, I was like, okay, like, this is a job, and thought I would be there for 3 years and was there for 4.5, and it like became a home within like a year or so. And I just love the people up there. I talk about that all the time to people, like how much I love the people that like were on the ground getting the stuff done, so, and you guys were in that group.
Well, it was great to see you. Thanks for everyone for listening, and hopefully you'll check us on the next episode. Make sure to follow us on all your on our socials, and also make sure you follow episode week to week. So we'll see everybody next time.
Bye.
If you like the 5 Tips and Tricks podcast, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. You can rate and review us, including questions that may be answered on future episodes. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast for careers in athletics is part of Athletic Career Consulting. Check us out at www.athcareer.com. Don't forget to follow and like us on your top social media platforms.